Hi, I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm excited to share the speaker portion of our Connections Over Coffee gathering of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Emily Shull is speaking on Know Your Parts. Emily is a holistic money coach. She helps you to understand and heal your relationship with money so you can meet your personal finance or business goals without the energy or overwhelm. Emily does this by guiding you to the emotional root of your unease with money and success. She's known for her calm voice, non-judgmental manner, and ability to help you realize a more peaceful relationship with money and or yourself. Emily, welcome. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Jenny. And I'm really excited to share with you what I've learned about parts work over the past year or so. I've been doing this on myself with clients. I've had parts work, I've been to an IFS therapist who's done parts work on me. And I find it to be an intuitive and organic way to explore and soften the parts of ourselves that often act in ways that come into conflict with our values and our intentions. Probably one of the best explanations that I've heard about what parts are and how they function within us is to think of, so we're yourself, and then when a part comes in, kind of steps in front of us so that we're speaking through that part. So we're calm, we're collected, and then all of a sudden something happens and we have a reaction to it. And then a judgmental part will come in and we're speaking from that judgmental part, or we're acting from that judgmental part. And this is not always a bad thing. There are times throughout the day where we want to be acting from a particular part. If we're driving down the highway, we want a hyper-vigilant, very focused, safety-minded part to be the one behind the steering wheel, and not someone who is, just full of love and compassion and has all the time in the world and is not really focused. So our parts are extremely helpful. But most of us also have parts that are not, that prevent us from reaching the goals that we have, that cause a lot of internal muddle that make us feel stuck. So I have some slides prepared for you because I love creating slides. So let me pull those up. All right. So we all have parts, and as one example that's really common, even when we say to ourselves, should I go out tonight or should I stay in? We have a part, the socializer, who says, yeah, let's go out tonight. And then another one, no, you know what? I'd really rather stay home and be comfy and be in my pajamas. And we even often use this language like, oh, part of me really wants to go out tonight, but part of me just wants to stay home. One important characteristic of our parts is that they are single-minded in their focus. The socializer can only understand that it feels really good to be with other people. I love hanging out with my friends. And if I don't go out, I'm going to feel lonely and sad. And it cannot understand the homebody part, who knows that it feels so good to be alone. Oh, this is how I recharge in the safety of my house. I really enjoy my quiet time. And if I go out, I just know I'm going to feel anxious and, people might judge me, so I'd rather just stay in. These are known as protector parts. And protector parts' job is to help you. Even sometimes they act in ways that feel really unhelpful or even hurtful, but they always have a very good intention behind what they're doing. Every part of us has a job. So the socializer job is to get us out because it doesn't want us to feel lonely. The homebody's job is to keep you in because it doesn't want you to feel rejected. So these two parts battle back and forth, and because they can only see their own point of view, they just can't make any headway with one another. So in a situation like this, where you either have to go out or stay in, one of them is going to win. And so in this example, the socializer wins. I'm at the party. And so it succeeded in getting me to the party. But once I get there, another part pops up. And this is my monitor part. And this part is trying to keep me from feeling rejected by my friends. So what it does is it pays really close attention to everything I'm doing, everything I'm saying, the way I'm standing. Oh, you need to do something with your hands, or oh, don't eat that food. You know, that's too messy. Your friends are going to think you're a slut. So everything that I do throughout the party, this monitor part is in force and is really keeping an eye on me to make sure that I don't do something that will make me feel like I'm not part of the group. So everything is going well. I'm having a good time with my friends. But then all of a sudden, something happens. I hear my friends talking, and they're talking about a movie that they went to see last weekend, and they did not invite me. Oh, all of a sudden, my heart sinks, and my little abandoned part comes out. And this little exile is hurt. This part is called an exile, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So to save me from this feeling, a whole bunch of other protectors come up. And they can look different depending on the day, depending on the situation. It could be a deflecting part that comes up where I say, oh, you know what? I really don't want to see that movie anyway. You know, on second thought, that was kind of dumb. And I'm really glad you guys went without me. So I didn't have to waste my $12 on that movie. Or maybe in a situation, it would be a raging part. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. You know how much I wanted to see that movie. You know how important it is for me to feel included in these things. Or maybe a part would come over. Oh, I'm just feeling so bad. I just need something in this moment. I don't feel like I can speak. I don't want to argue. Oh, let me just reach for whatever's within my sight and put it in my mouth just to calm me down. So these are all protector, the blue and the pink, these are all protector parts, but they serve a little bit different function. So the first two, the socializer and the monitor, these are called managers, and they act proactively. They try to do things and try to do it really well. They work hard to prevent the exile, in this case, this abandoned part here, from coming up. They know that the exile exists somewhere in the system, and they want to make sure she doesn't come up. So this is one exile that did come up, but this socializer, the socializer's job is to keep me from feeling lonely. It's another exile. And the monitor's job is to keep me from feeling rejected. And they did their job well, but unfortunately, this abandoned one popped up. And as a result, these three others came to my rescue. These are firefighter parts. And they are reactive. Every time an exile escapes and breaks out, they come to the rescue to soothe me. So a little bit more about the exiles. Protector parts, their job is to help us manage exiles, which are usually very old, wounded parts who hold our pain from a very long time ago, usually even within the first few years of life. We all have experiences of feeling all of these emotions, and you just can't make sense of them as a young person. And so these parts arise to hold this pain so that we can function throughout the day. So I'll give you a little bit more detailed example of how an exile is formed. So for example, say I'm 3 years old and my parents have been fighting a lot. And all of a sudden, one day my father gets into his car and rides away, and he never comes back home. So this abandoned exile takes the pain that I'm holding from this experience and contains it so that I can go about my day. Sometimes this pain comes up, but sometimes it doesn't, so that I'm able to go to preschool, I'm able to play with my friends and my siblings and connect with my mother. And as I get older and have experiences, sometimes this pain comes up and that doesn't feel good. So protectors are created to make sure that they do something so that I don't have to feel this pain. All right. So a perfectionist might come up and say, oh, if I just am a good student, if I'm a good daughter, then maybe I won't be abandoned again. Or if I'm really social, I make a lot of friends, the more friends I have, the less alone I'll be. Or after the fact, oh, I don't like this feeling. So this numb part comes in to take it all away from me. And there are many examples of different parts that can come up. A people pleaser part, an overindulger. So our lives become very crowded with all of these protectors, and they don't really, sometimes they work together, but they tend to work in patterns. And until we identify them, it all feels like a jumble. But parts can change when they connect with self-energy. So this is, when I think of self, I see it somewhat like this. A lot of people call it soul. In IFS, which is the name of a parts work system, internal family systems. There's many different types of parts work. That's probably the one that's most well known, IFS. And in IFS, they believe that everyone has a self energy that we're born with, and it cannot be destroyed. Regardless of what happens to us, we're going to have parts that come in, but the self is always there, somewhere in the background. And you know that you're in self-energy, and from time to time throughout the day, throughout the year, we drift in and out of self-energy, and you know that you are feeling self in self when you're feeling these characteristics: compassion, clarity, calm, connected, creative. So we have the example of the socializer and the homebody, and how these are polarized parts. They only know their own experiences. They can't really see the point of view of another part. We have many parts that are like this. Another good example is the achiever versus the procrastinator. But the only way to get any of these parts to change is to first have a connection to them that starts from self. Okay, the self to part connection. Part to part connection, that's what we try often. For example, if we're procrastinating, a lot of our manager parts will come online. The list maker, the schedule maker, the judgmental part. Why aren't you doing this? You should be doing this. But that never results in a permanent solution. Maybe one part will win over for a moment or for a week or a month. But then after a while, the procrastinator part's going to step back and say, hey, I really don't want to do this. The only way to make any permanent change with our parts is through self. So I'm going to give an example of that in a moment, but first I just want to summarize the important points so far, that we all have parts. Each one has a single-minded focus. Protector parts are trying to help us. They are all benevolent. They want to do what's right for us. They want to either protect us or soothe us from the pain that we're carrying. And this pain is held in very young parts called exiles. And parts can change, but only when they're met with self-energy. So how do we go about getting to know a part? The first step is to see what's coming up. Sit quietly and you'll be amazed within minutes how many different parts come up. Okay, I right now I have a timekeeper part. I have a little bit of a self-monitor part. Am I saying things the right way? I have a part that's really making my body a little energized, so I notice I'm overheating a little bit. If you sit down and focus on thoughts and sensations, you'll notice a lot of parts coming up. So that's a good way to start. And then you want to focus on a particular part of interest. And this could appear in many different ways. It could appear as thoughts. You could hear words in your mind. It could be an image, a feeling, a sensation in your body, like a tightness in your chest or your stomach, or is just an energy. Next, you want to flesh this out, gather some more information about the part. See if you can get to some other level of detail. What does it look like or sound like? If it's sensation in your body, does it have any edges or borders? Is it moving? Is it throbbing? Is it still? Does it have a color? Listen for whatever information in whatever form is willing to share with you. And the next step is probably the most important part in the process. And this is to gauge how you feel towards the part. Because if you feel anything other than either neutral or curious or compassionate toward the part, then that's a really good indication that some other part has stepped in front of you. And this is very, very common. It's often a judgmental part, a skeptical part, maybe even a confused part. And if that happens, then just turn to whatever part is there in the moment and greet it. And then again, see how are you feeling toward this part. This is why it's often helpful to work with another person when doing this. IFS is totally something that you can do on your own, but it's so common to become blended with other parts, to have that part step in front of you and to be speaking from it. So once you know that, okay, this is me, this is self, I'm feeling curious or compassionate toward this part, then start to befriend the part. Invite it to tell you about itself. And I know, especially if you're hearing this for the first time, this might seem like this is something that we make up in our imagination. Like, okay, I'm going to ask my part this, and then I'm going to guess at what it would say to me. But actually, it's amazing when you do this for the first time, when you have the experience of, oh my gosh, this part is honestly sharing information with me that on some level I was not aware of. It's absolutely amazing to continue to connect with yourself that way. So you can ask it, what is your role? What is your job? Would you rather be doing something else? How long have you been doing this? Again, you want to check for that self energy. How am I feeling toward this? And a good way to know that you're in self energy is if the part opens up or softens or turns toward you. That means that it's you that they see, and you're starting to feel that connection with them. And then the last step when meeting a part is asking it what it is afraid of will happen if it doesn't do its job. Its only role in our system is to do a job for us to keep us safe. So it's really important to get to know what is your function here. And if you weren't doing that, what would happen? And then it often, not all the time, it often takes you to an exile part, a wound that needs to be healed, which is not something I'm able to talk about today for time, but just know that that's possible as well. So again, when we're in self energy, self to part, that is when these parts can change. So let me give you just a couple quick examples of how that can happen. So after getting to know a part, the monitor part that was keeping a really close eye and kind of no, don't stand like that. That could become a coaching part, like, oh, good job, Emily. Yeah, that was a really good conversation you had with those people. A numbing part, instead of just completely spacing out and not feeling anything, could turn into an inner yogi, someone who helps you. Oh, I know I'm feeling distressed right now, so let me try some breathing exercises. A people pleaser can turn into a self-care monitor. Oh, what do I need right now? Instead of always focusing on other people. And even exile, so this abandoned part can unburden from her the pain that she's been carrying around and resume her role that she was, that was part of her at the time that she took on this burden, and become playful again. So I feel like this was just really a teaser, but there's so much to know about parts, and I think this is a good introduction of how to get to know your own parts. So I'll leave you with the question of, what will you discover when you get to know your parts? And if you'd like a guided experience, I'm happy to provide that for you in a 45-minute session. And I'm offering this at $65, which is about half off of the normal rate. And that would be enough time for us to connect with some of your parts, for you to connect with some of your parts, and probably also do a parts map. And that looks something, it could look something like this. This was something that I did when I'm learning something. So like when I was in my training course for IFS, or when I was learning how to drive in the Netherlands, all of these parts came up. And when I labeled all of them, and when I put them into pictures, and I could see exactly the relationship. Oh, when this part came up, this part, and then this and this and this. And it was incredibly helpful for me to focus on certain parts in order to calm the whole system. So I'm going to end the screen share now, and I appreciate your attention, and I hope that was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Oh my gosh, that was so good. I've heard pieces of this before, but you had never explained so succinctly, and just a nice little bundle there. It was just excellent. Thank you. And I'd like to ask the women in the Zoom room with us today to unmute yourself so we can applaud and give Emily's, one of her parts, all kinds of kudos. And yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
job. That was
So
great.
good. So good.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you.
And I want to thank anyone who's watching this live or watching the replay, or on our YouTube channel. If you want to join us for one of our Zoom gatherings or an in-person gathering, go to my website, which is opwgc.com. That stands for On Purpose Woman Global Community, where you can find out all about our community and the magazine. And also realize that if you want to reach out to Emily and you're not here with us today, her website information is in the text of this video. Thanks again for watching, everyone.